Hi everyone, welcome to another Literacy Friday session. Today we continue our study on questioning and its role in comprehension, and we'll be looking at assessing auditory comprehension. Today's lesson will be practical, so we'll be using questions to assess our auditory comprehension. The questions that I will ask will be set at the different levels of questioning, that's literal, inferential, and critical. If you missed our first lesson in this series about those levels of questioning, then you can go and check that out. The link is in the description panel. Before we get into our activity, let's look at some considerations that need to be made when assessing auditory comprehension. In assessing auditory comprehension, we should ensure that the audio content is not familiar to the listener. Now, if the content is familiar to the listener, then that person may just respond based on prior knowledge. So we have to ensure that whatever the content is that the person is listening to, it's not familiar to them. That way the questioning will be an authentic assessment process. The vocabulary within the audio content should also suit the reading level of the listener. It makes no sense you're using words or they're hearing words that they don't even know. So we're trying to use vocabulary that's familiar with them. It doesn't mean they have to know every single word that they hear, but there must be enough that will enable them to basically process the data. So it must be something that is within that store bank, and we would have been looking at this over the week as to how the auditory cortex will actually make connections. So it must be words that the person is familiar with, that they're hearing. Now, I know that most persons are not familiar with reading levels, and we'll explore that in future lessons. But it's as simple as this. If you know that the person is not at that level, then don't give them audio content for them to be comprehending at that level. So if the person is, say, 4 years old, you cannot be giving them content that would include vocabulary that perhaps a child in grade 6 should be handling. That would not be reasonable. Next, we should ensure that the content is not lengthy. Now, it's hard to estimate what is lengthy, but I would advise that the audio content that is being used is estimated at no more than 30 seconds. I think that's reasonable. It can't be too short, of course, because you're going to form questions based on it. But 30 seconds, I believe it's adequate time for somebody to listen to something, process it, and they should be able to respond. Now, when assessing auditory comprehension, whatever it is that is being played for the person to hear, it should be done at least 3 times. So if you're reading aloud, read it to them 3 times. If it's from perhaps like some device, play it 3 times. Now, in assessing auditory comprehension, we must stick to that recommendation of whatever it is that is being played or read should be done 3 times. So if the person has a script before them with the questions, then he or she should be hearing the audio content 3 times before responding. No less than 3 times, no more than 3 times. That will allow them sufficient time to read the questions and be able to write their answers after. If the listener doesn't have a script before them, that means the person who is assessing them is the one asking the questions, then the reading should be done only 1 time. A second play of the audio content can be allowed only if it is a case where there were background noises, or perhaps there was a fault on the assessor. Maybe the device that it was being played from was not working properly at the time, or maybe the person did not read clearly. In those circumstances, of course, the assessor just makes a judgment call as to whether or not the person will hear the content twice before responding. If the person is requesting a 4th reading or to hear it a 4th time, it could mean that the person has an issue with auditory acuity or auditory discrimination, or both. So do not allow the person to hear the content more than 3 times, but do not give them the content less than 3 times. So stick to that rule. 3 times, and then they must have answered all the questions after. Finally, we must ensure that we ask different levels of questions. It would be pointless just assessing the person on literal comprehension because they may easily miss some of the data that was explicitly stated. So you have to assess inferential level as well and ask critical level questions as well. Now, for the rest of this lesson, you will be seeing this black screen. This is not a mistake. This is not a joke. Now, there are persons who are skillful at reading lips, so I will not be showing my face as I do the reading. You will just have to listen, and then you will assess yourself based on how you respond to the questions that I ask after the reading. Ariel and Amanda are sisters. Ariel is the younger one, who is 5 years old. Her sister is 7 years old. The sisters love and care for each other, but sometimes they tease one another. They never fail at playing pranks, even on their parents. Yesterday, their parents left for a 3-day trip in America. So Amanda and Ariel were taken to their grandmother's house. Their grandmother's name is Nina. Grandma Nina is their father's mother. Their father and mother told them that they should not give Grandma Nina any trouble while they were away. Ariel said to Amanda, "Our parents told us not to bother Grandma Nina, but they did not tell us not to trouble each other. Watch out! This is going to be a crazy weekend." What are the names of the children? Who is the older child? Why did their parents leave them with Nina? Who is Nina, and how is Nina related to the girls? Based on how the story ends, what do you think may happen next?